StreamYard and all their networks. So that's going to be good to go. We're trying something out here. I think it'll be fun. But as far as I go, sorry, my list got thrown off for the Yergz. I'm on iTunes, Spotify, several others. Check out bobbydizzle.com for all ways to watch and listen. And let's see here, thrown off by the Yergz, doing this to me. Our guest tonight's Trey Hudson, Director of Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, aka ASOG, which sounds like a cool rifle accessory. Welcome the ASOG. The group's pretty interesting. I was trying to deep dive into it, but you definitely put the experiencer's point of view and their data they put in with the actual, the hard line,
right,
empirical evidence. I thought that was pretty cool. How did you go from being the I'm gonna refrain from saying Boy Scout because how did you go from being the the military guy with all the training to the interested in the paranormal, so to speak, to be an investigator?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. My bio sounds a whole lot cooler than I actually am. What I tell people is I am just an ordinary guy that's had some extraordinary experiences in my life, and it goes back to my childhood. I was born in the '60s, early '60s, and so I was a child of the really coming of age in the '70s. And back in the '70s, it was just a watershed moment for some of ufology, Jacques Vallée, John Keel, a lot of these Brad Steiger, a lot of these people really started coming into their own. In the '70s, and you started to see an eruption of books, magazines, and stuff on everything paranormal. And I'm just going to tell you how much of a geek I am. There was a show back in the '70s called In Search Of with the legendary Leonard Nimoy. And I am such a geek that I have that whole series on DVD. I'm flying my geek colors here. And there was also a wonderful show on CBS called Project UFO, which was kind of a highly fictionalized amalgamation of the Project Blue Book stuff, and Dr. Hynek, some of his stuff. So it was a highly fictionalized version of the Project Blue Book. So both of these shows were on at the same time, about the same period. So, I'm like this weird little maladaptive sponge, a kid in the '70s, like, oh, wow, this is just really cool stuff. Just, bring it on. And I'm absorbing all this, and it's just making all these, really weird little indelible marks on my personality, which, is kind of why I am the way I am today. And so my father, rest his soul, was also very interested in this stuff. He was a self-learned man, self-taught. And back in the '70s, he traveled all over the country doing contract work, building restaurants and things like that. And he heard a gentleman on a late night radio show as he was driving from one job site to another. And it was a gentleman talking about this book right here, Gods of Aquarius by Brad Steiger, which I'm happy to say I actually have an autographed copy of.
Was the show Coast to Coast?
I don't remember what the show was. It was back in the '70s, and I don't know if Art Bell was really rocking and rolling back, back then. But it was a late night, show, and Mr. Steiger was, talking about his book like all authors do as we go and we hawk our books, on various radio shows. And so my dad bought the book, and it was so cool. I remember him, bringing the book home. It had pictures like this in it, which was Bigfoot tied to UFOs, and all this just really, really interesting stuff. So I came across this normally. I also love the outdoors. Just absolutely, if there's anything going on outdoors, I'm all about it. So I joined the Boy Scouts. I went to their big ranch out in New Mexico. Did 70 contiguous miles backpacking, point A to point B, walking the whole time. I earned the Boy Scouts a 50-miler award 3 times, twice on foot and once via canoe. I'm an Eagle Scout. So, I just got this, this really love for the outdoors, and adventure, and this love for, paranormal and high strangeness. And I graduated high school. I went to the University of West Georgia. Now, University of West Georgia is a one of the schools here in the U.S. that has a very, very, very highly rated humanistic and transpersonal psychology department.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an individual on their faculty that I studied under. His name is Dr. William Roll, the very famous parapsychologist. So I studied under Dr. Roll and some others. So, once again, this is like this synchronicity, as my life is just sort of, going towards this
Mm-hmm.
distance. I ended up being branched U.S. Army Reserve as a branch military intelligence. And so I went off to the intel school and, came back, got married, started my life as a civil servant, as a
Mm-hmm.
federal security specialist. And then doggone it, life hit me just like a 2x4 in the face,
Yep.
career, kids, house, mortgage, all this other crap we have to deal with. And I kind of faded out of it. I kind of had to put all my kind of cool interest on the, on the back burner because life got in the way of living, as it does with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2000 and let me think now, 2008ish, back when all the ghost hunting shows were real popular. I found that there was a local paranormal group, in my AO in my area, and I sent them a resume, and I said, hey, I'm interested in this stuff. I've got a little bit of a background, academically, studying this stuff, and so I became a member of this paranormal group. The founders of that group uh, got burned out, and they left the group to me. They transferred it over to me. That was the Oxford Paranormal Society. And then the heyday of people
Mm-hmm.
referring haunted houses and businesses and all kind of petered out. There just wasn't a lot of people, referring that anymore. So I thought, well, let's change up the paradigm a little bit. Let's take this outside. Let's take my love for the outdoors and go and see what's outside. And I started to discover that, and I'm gonna show my age. Back when I was trained as an intel officer, we had acetate overlays on maps with
Yeah.
magic markers. I mean, that's how old school it was. And so, if you use that kind of thought process, I started to discover if you like take an overlay and you put all these brown dots where you've had all the Bigfoot sightings, use like BFRO or whatever, and then you take another overlay with blue dots from like National UFO Reporting Center, MUFON, or whatever, and then you take the folkloric uh, overlay, which is ghost stuff, paranormal, you're going to start to find clusters. Going to start to find geo concentrations of high strangeness. And so we decided to start looking at some of this stuff, and we discovered a site that is absolutely, will blow your socks off. I mean, it's just an incredible site, and we've been researching there since about 2016.
Cool. Yeah. The you really hit home with the career and the kids there. It's got me as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough. The cool thing is, I retired from 34 years of civil service in May, so I'm now jumping right back into it.
Yeah.
Full steam, and so I'm just loving life.
You're free as a song now. Was the Oxford Paranormal Society? Was that in Calhoun County? Was that
Yeah, yes,
that Oxford?
yeah,
I
that,
didn't
yeah,
want to.
yeah.
When you say no, it was in England. You hick.
Yeah, actually, it's funny because I would every once in a while I'd get an email saying, "Hi, mate, I'd like you to come check out our haunted
Mm-hmm.
location. When do you think you can come out?" I'm like, "Well, it's a long swim, from
Yeah.
Alabama to England.
Had to go down to
But,
Chattahoochee.
yeah, it's just do the deliverance thing down the Coosa
Yeah.
River, and so I say, well, this is Oxford, Alabama,
Mm-hmm.
not Oxford, England. So that was always kind of funny. But yeah,
Oxford graduates love to make that joke.
yeah, I
People
went
that
to
went to
Oxford.
So we're Oxford graduates. So what all have you done as far as the Bigfoot go? I mean, that's I thought that was your main focus. I realized you're so much
Well,
deeper than that.
well, here's the thing: is it's really funny. I don't know if you know Bob Wilson, uh, aka Jessica just popped in.
Jessica's here.
Yeah, is Bob Wilson, who was aka Grumpy from the TV show Bigfoot is Real. That was, I think,
Mm-hmm.
on Discovery. Anyway, he, I researched with him a lot, so I've kind of picked his brain as far as the Bigfoot stuff. But what I started finding is you can't look at stuff through a narrow, toilet paper tube. You know,
Hmm.
is you have to, look all around, and that's why I'm really big on the experiential nature of it.
Yep.
Empirical data is great. I mean, I collect, crap loads of data, really good stuff.
Hmm.
But if people aren't there to experience a phenomenon, what's the point?
Hmm.
So what I started discovering is, I'm a MUFON field investigator. So, if I look at stuff from the MUFON thing, then I'm missing out on maybe the paranormal stuff and the Bigfoot stuff. Or if I look at it through the very narrow optics of just Bigfoot, then I'm missing out on UFOs and ghosts. And vice versa. If I'm just looking at ghosts, then I ignore all this other stuff. So what I've become basically is a weird crapologist. If it's
Hmm.
weird crap, I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to look at it holistically. I'm not going to try to pigeonhole phenomena into certain areas. Is I'm going to what happened, what does the data show, what does
Hmm.
the experience show, and let it happen as it happens. Delve into and embrace the experiential nature of the phenomena.
Hmm.
And what I found is when I started looking at things like that, is these things seem to be interconnected. And it's funny because I was at a Bigfoot conference in Georgia, one of the first ones I ever went to, and I had on a T-shirt that said something about paranormal, whatever.
Hmm.
And all the Bigfoot guys are kind of giving me the stink eye. This was like in 2013. They're kind of
Yeah.
like,
This
oh,
back before that was cool to talk about.
yeah,
Back before we,
what's that ghost guy doing here? But, he gets to go eat his corn dog over there in the corner, not here with us cool kids.
they're still worshiping Jane Goodall at that point.
Yeah, and gigantopithecus, that's what it's all about.
There's no
And
bones for that one either, by the way.
yeah, no, there's not.
Let's not go into
And
that.
and so they were kind of giving me the stink eye, and which I thought was kind of funny. And then during the break, they would all kind of kind of look around and kind of creep over to me, and I go, "Hey, I don't want anyone to see me talking to you, but let me tell you what happened. We had these orbs popping out while we were doing Bigfoot research, and we saw a UFO." And I mean, it wasn't just one or two people; it was quite a few people. And now that people are starting to open up their minds, and open up the
Hmm.
possibilities of other experiences, I think the practitioners, the researchers, and the folks that are really doing this work, I think it's going to expand exponentially. In our understanding, maybe not our total understanding, but at least we will know maybe some of the proper questions to ask, and we can get closer to the truth, whatever that is. And so that's kind of the way we approach it. And our results, without sounding full of hubris, I think our results speak for themselves.
Jessica says she was there. She witnessed the whole thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the cool thing is, I tell people about our research is it's not, one or two guys, taking a leak on the backside of the trailer park. Yeah, I was back there taking a whiz with Bub, and we saw a lizard man come up out of the woods, and
Saw a lizard
so,
take a leak.
yeah,
Like what you did there.
hey, yeah, a lizard man. Uh, yeah, folks, I'll be on stage all week. Just make sure you tip your wait staff. Thank
Tip
you
your
very much.
waitress.
But
Try the fish.
yeah, but we had like tons of people that experience this thing, and then what I tell folks is it's not just the experiences we have, but it's the quality of the experiencers. We have like a dozen people that experience this phenomenon at our site. And we have, Glenn's background, former flight medic and all
Yeah.
that. We have, former military, former cops,
Lots of
emergency
three-letter
medical
agencies I've
people,
heard.
and all these people, and they're all experiencing the same thing. So it's just been a hell of a ride. It really has. And, we're going to ride this train as long as we can and gather as much data as possible.
It's definitely a cool one to be on. I didn't know really I was getting on a train until I started like
Yeah.
asking around. All of a sudden, wow, I guess I'm kind of getting into this community I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because you look at your ticket and like, I don't remember my ticket saying anything about this
Yeah.
place, but here I am. So
Yeah.
let's
Why
just
does
sit
everybody
down and
hate me
enjoy it.
here? You feel like to be, this is going to sound kind of snobbish, but it's going to be true. and I don't mean it to sound any way, but uh, almost like a flattering, but it doesn't matter how technically savvy you are in this world. Like it doesn't have any effect on how popular you get.
No,
Like, I try
no.
to put together the studio with stuff that I've researched from years of experience, and people with iPhones in a porter potty have like 40,000 followers. I'm like, what in the hell are they doing?
It's it's all
It's
about
insane.
the sizzle, not necessarily the steak.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you have to be really cognizant about. Is I have people that interview me say, well, your group always seems to be above the fray. Y'all don't get into all of this politics. And it's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
we're researchers. You know, I'm comfortable. I don't need any more money. I'm comfortable, with my lifestyle. I do what I want to do. And so I'm not trying to get out there and get famous. I'm not trying to, I don't have a YouTube channel. And the people I know that are in the business, they're just telling their story. They're not,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's a good story and it's something that the public is interested in, people will come. It's like the field of dreams.
Oh
They
yeah.
will come. And so that's kind of been my experience with it. So I'm just happy to help out anybody that's out there, just like Fox Mulder, back over here at my
Yeah.
shoulder, searching for the truth. I'm happy to
I saw that.
help out in any way I can.
It's crazy you say about helping out because you don't think that you're doing something, but I've had at least 4 or 5 guests who are scared to talk to anyone,
Hmm.
and like and me, like, who am I? You still haven't talked to anyone, dude, but whatever. But I'll see them on like a Facebook message. I saw one, but I'm scared to talk about it. I'll message, hey man, come on. I'm like, people say that when they talk to me, they don't even know they're on the show, so they do it, and then they end up on like 50 other ones. It's happened 2 or 3 times.
Oh wait! What? This is a show? I thought this was just FaceTime.
Oh
Did you
gosh,
did you
yeah,
trick me?
you're on the air. Sorry, FCC. I wish you would throw your lavalier mic. I'm done here.
Ah,
This is horseshit. Yeah, it's happened a lot. There's been, uh, like I say, the guy who talked the whole time with his thumb over his camera
yeah.
and had the best story in the world and never told it to anybody else, and now he's on every show.
Hmm.
It's 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 good to see that you're some kind of doing some kind of good to get their story out there because they're sitting there, they're scared. They message you all week. I don't know if I want to do this.
Well, the more I talk to people and the more I go around the country lecturing and things like that, is there are so many folks that have these amazing, sometimes very exciting, very great experiences. And quite frankly, they're isolated. And there is nothing
Mm-hmm.
more frightening than thinking you're alone in your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, when people can come out and, talk about it, like you said, come on a show, say, you're not going to believe this, but blah, blah, blah. And you're like, yeah, no, I've heard that before. That's,
Third
I've
time
heard
this week.
something very similar. It takes down that wall of isolation. And, I talked about, and I'm going to keep driving this point as long as I can, is the human aspect of this is we are human beings. These are human beings having experiences. We're human beings being touched by the experiential nature of this phenomenon. And if we can't relate to other human beings, we're in for a world of hurt because there's a certain amount of, as you know, psychological baggage that comes along with
Mm-hmm.
this. I mean,
Ton of it.
when
Most of it.
when things get just off the scale, off the hook, crazy, you start to question your sanity. Did I just experience this? Did I just see this?
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're out there in the community and you have people say, crap, I had the same thing happen to me. Was it, A, B, or C? Yes, it was. Then not only do you feel less isolated, but you start to establish that human connection. Humans are social creatures. We need other human beings to be healthy. And then if the other side of that is if you start experiencing physical ailments, which unfortunately happens in this business too, then you also have people you can turn to on that, and you're not so isolated and and alone. And I think the naysayers, the people that like to either A, sit up on their lofty academic perches and poo-poo this, or
Mm-hmm.
they're people that are purposely poo-pooing it to do psyops, info ops, and disinformation, they don't want us talking to one another. They don't want these lines of communication to be open. They want us to be the crazy fringe. So, just as long as in one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs, as long as we keep talking.
Yep. Why do you think the government doesn't want us to know about Bigfoot, though? That's the weirdest thing.
This is pure speculation.
Yeah.
Like I tell people, uh, my business, has been in and out of the intelligence world for a while. I
Yeah.
am one of those guys that's, had one foot in that world that had absolutely nothing to do with UAPs. I'm
Yeah.
not. Well, I was in charge of the double secret. No, I was not that
Mm.
guy. So the same thing with Bigfoot is, I was never involved with anything officially, but what generates fear? What
The
is the
unknown.
biggest? The unknown, a mystery or the unknown. And things you can't control cause fear. It causes trepidation, and sometimes it causes people to act out. And the government is very pragmatic, and I'll give them that. They are very, very pragmatic, and they're not going to say yay or nay on something until they are 100% positive. And if saying yay has some sort of ROI, return on investment for them. Now, and we're seeing that now with the UAP world, which I've talked to some pretty powerful folks in the UAP world, that have asked me, from your experience in the intelligence community and the security community, why is this stuff coming out now? Why do you think it's all of a
Mm.
sudden becoming an issue? How would you go about protecting this information? And so I think now that we're starting to have a little bit of disclosure, for whatever reason, it's time for it. And I think a lot of that might have to do with a lot of the stuff that's been seen throughout the years, were what are known as undeclared airframes, which are
Mm.
they're aircraft being flown by various agencies that are highly advanced, and we do not want to give our enemies a strategic or tactical advantage by them understanding what the capabilities of these aircraft are. So when somebody sees something in the sky, you just clamp down the information because something about our capabilities might get out. So
Yeah.
there's some of that, and it's it has to do with special access programs and stuff
Hmm.
like that in that world.
That's the triangle shaped aircraft. It turned out to be,
Yeah.
you know, even though they're still triangle shaped, that's not stealth being seen this day.
Yeah, and
Oh,
that was it's funny because my wife and I were actually discussing that. Uh, there are some talks, and I've heard it for years. Now, of course, this is unofficial. I'm not read in, or never have been read into anything that involves that particular type of stuff. Is there's been some talks about triangular craft that have some sort of gravity nullification
mm,
technology. I'm not a physicist, so I don't know what that would look like. That can glide very silently. These craft supposedly are very large. Uh, and I'll give you an example of something sort of like that. That's a real world example. You've heard of the F-117 stealth fighter, the Nighthawk, I'm
hmm.
sure, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the new one.
Well, no, the old one that came out
Oh, the
like,
old one. I thought
yeah,
they had
yeah.
a new one.
Yeah, they do.
It's
That's
like the
yeah. But the old F-117 is that
okay, yeah.
first made its debut quasi publicly during the invasion of Panama. Really
Yeah,
became public during Desert Storm in 1991 ish,
yeah.
somewhere around there. What a lot of people don't realize is that airframe was actually an operational airframe back into the 70s. Is there was a squadron out of the uh, Tampanade test range, I believe, and I'm recalling this from memory, that was actually flying operational missions back into the 70s. And they had a cover for this squadron that flew these aircraft. So people were seeing these triangular shaped aircraft, out in that area. And they were operational airframes that were flying actual operational missions that wasn't actually disclosed until the 90s. So, what's flying around in our skies right now that's operational that,
Yeah.
is being, is tamped down in the cover of secrecy and security, which I think for good reason. So I think there's
Hmm.
technologies out there that would absolutely blow people's minds. That just they just can't even imagine the stuff that's out there. So I think that's a lot of unacknowledged airframes out there flying around. Now the Bigfoot thing,
Yeah.
I think I have to wonder if U.S. Fish and Wildlife hasn't looked at that and said, how do we how do we manage this? And do we acknowledge it? Do we not acknowledge it? Do we just stick our fingers in our ears,
Yeah.
and go la 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 anytime somebody mentions Sasquatch? I think we have precedent for that. An excellent precedent is here in the state of Alabama is the panther population.
Yep.
There are the agencies here will swear up and down that we do not have a sizable panther population in this state, and I'm here to tell you we do.
They'll get
Because
on the
I know
radio and argue about it.
do what?
They'll get on the radio and argue about it. It happens 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah, I have a friend of mine. I'm not going to talk about which agency he works for, but he had access to some CCTV uh, feeds from a camera somewhere, and there was a one lane flat top road leading up to this secure asset, and he has footage that he showed me of a panther crossing this one laned access road, and it was almost as long as the doggone road. It was almost as wide, huge thing. But yet you go to the Alabama Department of Natural Resources and they'll say, no, 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 we don't have a sizable, cat population in this
Was
state.
it the black panther or like the standard mountain lion?
It was like a standard mouse. It was kind of tawny colored, kind of tannish colored. And I talked to military folks, on installations here in this state, who have seen them, very late at night, with their spotlights and their night vision. So yeah, it's out here. So I think Sasquatch probably falls into that same kind of, neither confirm or deny kind of thing, because I don't think that I just don't think they know what to do with it. Is it a hominid? Is it a primate? Is it a bear? What is it? We don't have any DNA, so we can't put it into a genus and a species, much less a kingdom and a phylum.
Mm-hmm.
So the best way to manage it is by not managing it. The best way to answer the questions is by not answering the question.
I bet the fact that it can disappear throws a wrench into it too.
Yeah. Now you touch now. Okay, now we got 1 foot solidly in the woo world.
Oh, I'm all the way in. I'm over my head in woo.
Yeah. I didn't look for the woo life. The woo life found me.
It does. The difference in the people who are flesh and blood, the difference between people who are woo, the woo people have seen Bigfoot. Flesh and blood people have not.
Yes. And we have footage of a large, I'm not going to say it's a Bigfoot. I'm going to say it's a large creature with wide shoulders, a head sitting right on its shoulders, materializing. This is FLIR footage. This is a thermal. Mm-hmm. And it's colder than its surroundings. Not warmer, colder.
Really?
Yeah, which is crazy. It's really weird. And it's standing there just sort of, doing this, back and forth. I have a researcher, a good friend of mine that researches in our area too, that has footage of a creature that's semi-translucent on the thermal that's running across the forest, gets to a tree, and never comes out of the other side. Just disappears, and it's gone.
It's like some Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and of course you have, Jan McAvee, Bruce McAvee's wife talks about the predator, kind of thing that she
mm-hmm.
saw when she was hunting. So, yeah, it's definitely out there. And I think, and I go back to what I said earlier, I think this stuff is all connected. I think the UFOs are connected to the Bigfoot, which is connected to the ghost, they're all facets of the same diamond, and we can't just discount it. We can't say, okay, I was out researching Sasquatch and I saw an orb. But since that doesn't fit into my worldview of Gigantopithecus, I'm just going to ignore it. That's stupid. I mean, that's just
I love
silly.
how bothered you are by Gigantopithecus. I just went on a rant about it last week.
I mean, I think Gigantopithecus was, I have a minor in anthropology. I think Gigantopithecus is a real creature that did exist in prehistoric times. I think the molars that were found in China were part of a giant upright ape.
Is what we're experiencing.
today I do not think are gigantopithecus.
Is it not funny to you that their only that their explanation to a real Bigfoot also has no bones or evidence?
And that's
That makes me so happy. I laugh so hard at that. I'm like, you don't have any evidence either, motherfucker.
Yeah, no, I mean you don't. But
That's
the
funny.
thing is, I'm an elk hunter. I hunt out west. I don't run across elk carcasses.
Yeah.
You just don't. Here, traipsing around the woods. In my neck of the woods, I don't run across deer carcasses.
Not many.
Animals need calcium, so they're the mice and squirrels and everything are constantly eating the carcasses. And there's a famous and I'd have to find it. It's actual footage of a deer, white-tailed deer, eating another white-tailed deer's carcass.
I've seen that.
Pulling the calcium from the bones. So
it's like nibbling on the bones a little bit.
Yeah, nibbling on the bones. It's the same thing as if you go up to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville to their body farm. The animals that nibble the calcium off of the bones of a decayed human being. It's entirely reasonable that there's not a bone type evidence. An orthopedic type evidence. With the bones. But however, there may be fossilized evidence. That's where you get into Australopithecus africanus, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and all of that stuff. Is there's a unique condition that fossilized their bones. Very very precise, unique set of circumstances, environmental circumstances that allowed those bones to be fossilized. So. When you're talking about a population of a creature, like Sasquatch, that might be, in the thousands or tens of thousands, the odds of us, as low ranging as humans are, we don't range 50 miles, in a month, moving from point A to point B. We're pretty sedentary.
Mm-hmm.
The odds of us finding something is pretty remote if the body wasn't eaten by creatures, and if the body is physical as we understand things.
Does it force ghosts when they die? We don't know.
Yeah. So, is it something that's interdimensional that when it winks into existence, does whatever it needs to do, and then winks out of existence?
Mm-hmm. You say he thinks religion plays a huge role in the cover up of the paranormal, interdimensional concepts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true, and that's something that we have to be careful about. I talked about our toilet paper tubes, and when I do this lecture, I've got a picture on one slide, a picture of the Mona Lisa, and I've got a bunch of guys looking through toilet paper tubes, and one has a shirt that says religion, and one has a shirt that says science, and one has a shirt that says personal point of view, and we have to take those blinders down and look at the whole thing. I'm pretty open. I have a pretty strong religious belief system, but I don't let it blind me. Whatever put us here, gave us these wonderful minds to question things and to look at things and explore things and talk to each other and look up at the sky at night and wonder. And wouldn't it be horrible if we weren't allowed to do that? If that sense of wonder was taken away from us?
And there's some of those religious sects that make that a sin almost, like the wandering outside the box.
Yeah.
I couldn't stand it if I couldn't. I was raised Catholic. My grandmother said you can think about that stuff because it's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. It was kind of funny because my a local newspaper did like a whole half-page thing on me, some of my research and all, and my one of the elders put it up on the church bulletin board because they were proud of it. Like, oh look, this is one of our guys. It's never put blinders, never voluntarily put blinders on yourself. I mean, it's one thing if you're stuck in a culture or society and you have blinders on and you don't know it. That's one thing, but never take them and put them on yourself.
And you end up being causing yourself more harm than good.
Yeah.
What's this? How does Trent manage his previously? What happened to my?
Trey. Trey.
Who is Trent?
Yeah, that's my secret name. No, is security clearance? That's a good question. Is actually is I had a security clearance up until May when I retired, and there was never any conflict with it. And I was a security manager for a while, and I know I'm sure you kind of know how that works. When you
Mhm.
get a command, you have a security manager, and that person, does your reinvestigations and all of that. Now that they've gone to continuous vetting, it's a little bit different. But it's really never been an issue. The funny thing is I was working with a program, and I had several counterintelligence agents that would support my program, and they would come down about once a month or so, and we would discuss programmatic stuff and threats to the program and all of this. And they thought it was the coolest thing. And there's a counterintelligence agent. I'm not going to tell you where he's out of. That actually has an autographed copy of my book. He bought a copy. He goes, "Oh, hey, sign this for me. This is so cool." So yeah, no, it's never been a conflict.
Mm.
It's really interesting. Is nobody has ever been officially interested in what I do. It's interesting. Other than people just having a personal interest and thinking it's
Yeah.
kind of unique. But
I
yeah,
knew
no,
the
it's
answer to that
never.
question. I'm
Yeah,
living that right now.
there's 13, and I can get into this because I was a security manager, but there's 13 factors of PDI, potentially derogatory information,
Hmm.
and researching paranormal is not one of them.
Yeah, that I was going to say. There's a lot more that they care more about than that.
Yeah, yeah,
As someone that, yeah, I'm in the same
yeah,
boat. I'm not going to
yeah,
say anything else, but
yeah. Oh, yeah,
it's not a paranormal's not the least of their worries. Oh, he talks to dead people as long as it's not in Iraq.
yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. And you kind of know you kind of know this is when you get into trouble, if you do something naughty, you have to go and report it to somebody.
Yep.
I was that guy. I was the guy that would sit on the other side of the desk and say, "Yeah, we got to report this up to the central adjudication
Drink and
facility."
drive.
So,
It's always a DUI.
yeah, and
Bankruptcy.
bankruptcy, financial a lot too.
Here we
Yeah,
go. As a former wildlife officer, I can attest the official denial protocol. First cougar attack in Shelby County, Tennessee in 71. 7 plaster cast of cougar tracks. Wow, a denial protocol.
in
That
1971,
was,
I didn't. That
yeah.
Cougar attack in 1971. I didn't think Demi Moore was active back in 1971.
Hey, oh, this
Oh,
guy
wrong
here
kind of
all
cougar.
week. Rest in peace, Betty White.
Yep.
Nah, Martha
Yeah,
Stewart's
yeah.
kind
I
of a
mean,
cougar.
but yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's official denial is probably the easiest route to go. Just when in doubt, pretend it doesn't exist.
By the way, Ernie, got your Fort Duffield shirt on. Ernie down there, Ernie Pack, he preserving a Fort Duffield up in West Point, Kentucky. Sold me
Oh,
this
okay.
shirt last week. Only cost me $115. I mean,
Oh,
it faded in
haunting.
the dry.
Haunting is a Fort Duffield.
Yeah, Fort Duffield is a cool place. Looks like a little entrenchment. It's
No, that's cool.
it's the earth is half the dirt. I mean the earth is half the fort.
So
I
kind of a
love it.
series of earthworks.
Mm-hmm. Yep, like a giant mole came through and it went through.
I think I saw that movie. It was made back in the 1950s. Radiation and Moles, something like that.
Ah,
The attack.
there's that
The
giant
attack.
rat in the Stephen King movie.
Yeah.
We're talking about SR-71 Blackbird. Yeah, we got one of those here in Huntsville.
Yep. Yep. I've been up there and seen it.
Those things are crazy. Every time I go there, I go by there every morning. That's not even a thing. I see the Blackbird every single day. I still want to stop and take a picture. I used to have it in my intro.
And that's a cool thing. That's a great segue. Is talking about the SR-71. If you look at the Y-12 Ox Cart program, which was the CIA program that eventually became the SR-71,
Mm-hmm.
and how that program was kept under wraps for years, and that was an operational airframe that was flying reconnaissance missions all over the world. And if there's something that needs to be covered up, for security purposes, they can do that. I get a kick out of this when people say, the government can't keep a secret. Yeah, no, trust me, the government can keep a secret. Absolutely, the government can keep a secret for a
Yep.
very long time. And
Even if it doesn't even need to be kept half the time.
yes, and the people that come out and say, well, I'm going to be a whistleblower. I'm going to tell you about this, top secret / SCI or top secret / SAP program. It's like, yeah, no, no, no. If you're read into those programs, you do not talk about them ever, ever, ever.
I've never, it's always like you just said, the documentaries have a guy that they're coming forward. I'm like, yeah, they'd go to prison after it was over.
Yeah, no. I mean, there was
Maybe
stuff
on
when
their
I,
deathbed.
when I went to the Intel school back in the 80s, there was stuff that I'm pretty sure has been declassified. Certain agencies and stuff and their capability. I still don't talk about it. Even
It's not worth it.
even here in 2023, I still am like, I'm not, I'm not even going to go there. So yeah, always take a lot of things with a grain of salt, definitely.
Especially the guys who are like in their 50s and they're saying they saw it. Like, dude, they can go to prison for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
Now the guy who was half dead, looking like Jabba the Hutt, laid on his bed holding pictures of UFOs up. I believe that guy over.
Yeah.
The other ones, he didn't have anything to live for. He was done.
And I have to wonder about some of this stuff that's coming out now is that not sanctioned disclosure? The Mr. Grouch who came out here about a month and a half ago. He he's going about it the right way. I think the stuff that he was talking about, was sanctioned. He was authorized to talk about it. So it's an interesting time to be alive. I mentioned earlier I was the kid watching the UFO documentaries on TV and stuff like that, and now we're actually seeing disclosure. We have governmental agencies saying, we've got stuff that's flying in non-ballistic patterns that are it has transmedium nature. They can go from water to air, air to water, vice versa. And I'm seeing this in my lifetime. I never thought I'd see that. So it's a neat time to be alive, and it's a neat time to be, in this business, this high strangeness research business, because I think the best is yet to come.
I sure hope that's our technology if it's not little green men.
Yeah, who knows?
I think it would be crazy if you like if shit did hit the fan and then they just brought all that stuff out all at once and ended it. Like,
yeah, I think I think we have capabilities that blow people's minds. Some of the stuff that the U.S. has up its sleeve is just
What's the 50-year rule? Any technology you can imagine, we're 50 years ahead of it.
Yeah.
That's what Lockheed said.
Yeah, that's the Skunk Works is when Kelly died, they didn't turn off their research. They're still doing stuff.
They didn't just pack it up.
Yeah.
I just wonder, because they say that the only thing I can imagine is like a flying saucer, maybe faster than the speed of light. Like, what else are they thinking of?
Well, the thing is you start looking at potential indicators, and some of the things that you're hearing about now are some advances on the quantum level, very, very small things, spooky action at a distance, particle A affects particle B simultaneously, but they're at a distance. So that data somehow is traveling faster than the speed of light, or the data affects this one before it even leaves this one. So it's actually going back in time. So if that stuff is happening on a quantum micro scale, is it scalable? Can it be brought up to a macro scale? And if it's brought up to a macro scale, what would that look like? And I was, I was digging around in some of my personal, computer crap today, and I have a tiny USB dongle, the size of my thumbnail. That's 1 terabyte. And I ran across somebody had posted a picture today on one of the Facebook pages or something of engineers moving a 5 megabyte drive in like in the 1971, and it's like this thing the size of a Buick. And so I'm looking at my little 1 terabyte dongle. That's in my lifetime. And that's what's available. That's consumer grade. I buy that on Amazon. So what's out there that we right? So what's out there that we can't buy?
Yeah, that's going to go through them first.
Yeah, so I think there's some amazing stuff out there, and hopefully some of this cool stuff will be disclosed. Even cooler, maybe they can take some of this technology and act it. Bobby has a tiny dongle. Okay,
look,
well,
it's adequate.
The BobbyDongler.com. No, that's
Bobby Drizzle.
Drizzler. Hey, they make pills for that. I'm over 50. Hey, it happens.
Over 50. Wendell wants to know if the fires in Hawaii were started from the government lasers.
No.
Yeah.
And the thing is you always have to have a contrarian person, and I always All through my career, I was always the what if guy. What if and so what? Why? Why would the government start fires with lasers when they
Yeah,
could just
it
hire?
seems,
It'd be a lot cheaper just to hire some crackhead, there in Hawaii and give them a big lighter and say, "Go start a fire."
and then shoot
Why
him.
use Why use a laser? You can use a
I
bit.
use a laser from space.
Yeah. What's the return on investment? So yeah, you kind of have to be that guy. Why? What's the return on investment? And if I was planning an operation, how would I go about it? And I wouldn't, if I was going to start a fire in some really dry grass in Hawaii, I wouldn't use a space-based laser. That seems like a bit of overkill. I got to
Yeah,
just use a big lighter and a crackhead.
crackhead, space
Yeah,
crackheads. That's
yeah,
another coming to Netflix in May. Space
yeah.
crackheads of Maui.
Space crackheads in Maui. So they're
Yeah,
going Maui
I got
Wowie.
really, I kind of got in. I thought conspiracies were fun until the COVID thing happened, and they all started coming true. And I'm like, I'm not gonna get. I stopped being into them after that.
Yeah, the
It was
COVID thing
just
was
not any
really
fun.
the COVID thing was really kind of funny because I just, we were told we had to get the vaccine, and you know, I I did my own research. I talked to physicians I know, and I made a decision for myself, about the vaccine for me
Mhm.
personally. Not, everybody had to do that. But when I made that decision, I actually had somebody I know come up to me and say, "Oh, well, the vaccine is a government conspiracy to thin the population." Like, really? So why do they want to thin the population? So the government can take control. I said, so the COVID vaccine is a means to thin the population so the government can take control. Yes. So you do realize I'm the government, right? Why would they kill me with a vaccine if
I
I'm the
love
guy
that.
that's supposed to take control?
I
That
love this
doesn't
one.
even, your logic is falling apart.
And the people that are killed would be the sheep.
Right, right. So
The
anyway, this
people.
guy, I was supposed to be dead in 18 months and I'm still, still crack-a-lacking. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I had to take it because of my government job as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I didn't what I didn't really suspect a lot. The only thing I've had so far is my blood pressure went up. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's because I gained 40 pounds, but I blame the
Uh,
vaccine.
I don't know. Cause and effect. Who knows?
I don't know if it was the 40 pounds or the vaccine. I work next to a Popeye's chicken next to the Burger King on post. So what
Yeah,
have you? Vaccine
yeah,
totally.
yeah. All 100%, 100%.
Bristol said you don't want to paint everything blue. Oprah's house is blue.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all
I
I'm saying
didn't.
is I got 800 cans of blue spray paint in the next room, but I'm not saying
Yeah,
anything.
you got duct tape and aluminum foil for the
Yeah, that's
windows.
right.
What
No,
is he
I
talking
well,
about?
actually,
Why dues induce fear? Oh,
uh,
I don't know what that
yeah.
is.
I think it's dues. I used to be distant early warning radars, which were over the horizon radars. Uh, now, you know, so maybe that's what the do is.
I wonder who said that. When I'm posting to my private group, it comes up as Facebook user, like some kind of creepy, some kind of some kind of creeper. Let me see who that was. That doesn't matter. We had another question up here. I don't want to bounce around on the subject, but it seems like it's working out so far. My man Lionel wanted to know what your best piece of Bigfoot evidence you've gotten so far. There we go.
Best piece of Bigfoot evidence so far. And let me preface this: I am not primarily a Bigfoot guy.
Yeah.
I'm just not. Probably the best evidence that we've had is we've had some howls. We've had, and this is kind of interesting too. Is one of my research partners? She and I heard samurai chatter. That like
Mhm.
Ron Moorhead. Sierra Sounds kind of stuff. That kind of that kind of low mumbling. And then we had the FLIR footage, or FLIR image. And while we're talking about it, I think I've got a picture of it here in my book. I'll just pull it up real quick, just show people what I'm talking. Yeah, there we go. I don't know if y'all can see that. You can kind of
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that figure,
Outline.
right? Yeah. And that thing was colder than the surroundings. So, you talked about earlier, are these things physical? Why would something manifest that's colder than its surroundings? Now we look at the other side of the same coin. In paranormal uh, experiences, people talk about ghosts always being corresponding with a cold spot.
Hmm.
So, there's something about energy, being absorbed, the temperature dropping when things manifest. So I thought it was interesting that this area has a very rich history of Sasquatch, where we do our research. A lot, I mean, a buttload of them. And so we captured something on our thermal manifesting that looks like a Sasquatch, but is a colder temperature than its surroundings, which is interesting because that's also the way people explain and describe ghost encounters as being colder.
That's what I was thinking when you said that. I'm like, it does sound. It's definitely not a real thing or a real thing like we would say it's real
Oh, I think
because
it's
of
a
the.
real. Yeah, I think it's a
It's not. It's
real
not like
thing.
a physical, like a human
Yeah,
pumping
yeah,
98.6.
yeah,
I couldn't find the words there.
yeah.
It's crazy. Maybe I won't. Let me ask this next follow up question. Did you
Mhm.
keep the FLIR on it, and did it ever turn red? Or
No, we had what we did is that we were using. I'm trying to remember. I have to go back and look at it. We were using either white or black palette for heat,
yeah,
and it just stayed that constant temperature, and it just sort of shifted back and forth. It was weird. Just and that was during a time that we had a lot of crazy activity going on. That particular evening.
hmm,
Just I mean, you name it. We've had people are gonna say think I'm crazy here, but we've had portals. We've had entities. Things that are man-sized. I'm not necessarily going to say man-shaped, but man-sized. Maybe 1 meter wide. About 2 meters tall. Heat signatures that don't correspond with any known locations of our teammates because we're real picky about, everybody has a radio. We have
hmm,
a operational plan when we go out. Nobody moves off station without permission. We have a operational commander who's in charge of the whole outing for the week or whatever. And then we have a tactical commander that's in charge of what's going on in the field at that particular time. Nobody gets off station without permission from either the operational or tactical commander. Uh, so we have these entities, you know, these heat signatures. Now, a Bigfoot guy would look at these heat signatures and say, "Oh, well, those are two Bigfoots." A ghost guy would say, "Well, no, those are two ghosts." And a ufologist would say, "No, those are obviously two aliens. We've had UFO sightings here.
it
What if it's all of them and none of them?" You
sounds
know?
like your religion science guy again.
Yeah, yeah. So, we've had that stuff go on, and I think they're all facets of the same diamond. Uh,
Yeah,
And it's one of those places. Glenn can tell you this. Jessica was just on here; she's witnessed all of this. Is it pretty much is everything that Skinwalker Ranch has going on, less Travis Taylor. We don't have
yeah.
Travis Taylor, but no, I'm kidding. But
He's
we
up
have,
here.
yeah, I know, and so we have a lot of the same kind of stuff going on in our area. So it's just really a fun ride.
Yeah, I've heard a couple stories before about the orbs turning into Bigfoot
Yeah,
and
yeah.
start crunching. The orbs start crunching, and all of a sudden the body forms.
It's really cool that now some of your better known Bigfoot researchers are starting to talk about that. And one of the first people I heard talk about that was Bobo Fay. He actually started
Hmm.
talking about orbs and flashes of light in the forest in areas that are Sasquatch habitation areas. And we've seen the exact same thing. We've seen these, like, imagine a flash bulb just going off in the forest, just boom, just brilliant, for a millisecond. We've seen that. We've seen orbs, white orbs, red orbs, you know, tiny little flashes of, minuscule lights, which is interesting because if you go back and you look at folklore, that's how people would describe fairies,
Hmm.
you know. And I don't know if you know Joshua Cutchin. He's done a whole lot of research on the folklore of fairies and how that translates into modern experiences. It's all the same thing. It's just our ancestors are trying to describe something amazing using the
Hmm.
languages and the tools they had. And, if we look at their accounts with an open mind and our accounts with an open mind, you start seeing, these overlaps, that it's the same phenomena. It's just we're using different language to describe it.
It's like when my grandfather used to describe how a computer worked. It's like this. It's like the same thing. The doohickey.
The doohickey.
Didn't know what it was.
When I was going through the Intel school, we were studying radio propagation. How radio works, and FM technically stands for frequency modulation.
Mm-hmm.
But our instructor said, all you need to know is it's just effing magic. FM.
Yep.
It's friggin' magic.
Auto magic.
And sometimes when the IT guys would come into my office, it was just effing magic, that I got anything to work. Windows 11, yeah, it's magic. I don't know.
It is magic. Wish they quit talking about magic. What is this here? Had somebody talking about Agenda 21, global elites, global depopulation, something about Hulk Hogan, NWO. Yeah, I mean, I guess. They're not doing a very good job of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, world population is pretty out of control right now. As far as that, and I'm not going to be, I believe in preparedness anyway. I think people should be prepared for anything. Here, and I don't know how long you've lived in Alabama, but back in '93, we had a doggone blizzard. I mean, like a no kidding blizzard. Like 24 inches of snow.
Yep.
And so, because I was that guy, I kept propane wall furnaces in my home. When I upgraded my HVAC to electric, I went ahead and still kept the propane heaters. I have a well, I have a generator and a way to draw water. I have a ham radio, I have all this stuff. So I was prepared for it. So, the planning aspect of that is, that's always a good idea.
I've lived in Alabama since '83. I was here, man.
Yeah, it was something else.
Out in the sticks, everybody had 4-wheelers going up down the road, eating hot dogs off Coleman grills.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was truly interesting. Then we had Hurricane Opal come through, which put the schwack on everything once again. So
I really didn't do anything up here. We just got out of school for a week or a weekend, long weekend.
Yeah.
So we got Dogman in Coleman, Blount County.
I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. And a Dogman, which is, I'm starting to kind of, I used to kind of, Dogman,
mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, I'm looking at that with, more of an open mind, more of a mature mind, is what are people describing? They're describing, canine-like creatures on their hind legs, moving around. And so you go back to your folklore and you have, people talk about lycanthropes, werewolves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here we have this now in the 21st century, the same kind of phenomena. And I'm working on my second book, and I just got done writing a chapter on Marley Woods, which is in Missouri, famous area of high strangeness. And kind of hard. The information about Marley Woods is not real available. But reading about some accounts there were some very legitimate, reputable accounts of, once again, white colored dogmen, canine type creatures that would stand on their back legs, would have 24-inch strides. They would have paws, canine type paw prints that are about 5 inches wide, that were walking bipedal. So I have no doubt that Coleman and Blount County have dogmen. I think they're probably more prevalent than we realize.
Especially if the woo is at all at play. I mean, it could be anywhere.
Yeah,
plenty of woods down there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever seen the Netflix show Fear and Love and Robots? And
yes,
the Dogman episode about Afghanistan.
I did not see the Afghanistan episode.
Yeah.
I did not see Dogmen when I was in Afghanistan.
This is about Marine super soldiers.
Yeah,
it's a good episode. It's getting one of the insurgents was a dogman as well, and they had to find him.
Mm-hmm.
And ended up being that's a good episode.
I think that sounds familiar. I think I've watched a little bit of that. Yeah,
those are really short That's a fun one though. They start calling each
Yeah.
other. They start calling them flea bags in the mess hall. Get out of here, flea bag. Distant early warning. Maybe an EMF thing cause fear and reaction. All right.
Yeah.
Danny wants to see the cover of your book.
Oh.
The Meadow Project. Oh yeah. That's a scary name. It's innocent. That makes it scary.
Yeah.
The
Well, I
Meadow.
was kind of, it's like, oh, what can I call this thing? It's like, well, it's kind of a meadow, and it's kind of a project we're working on. Let's call it the Meadow Project. So why not?
Jessica's account freaks
Yeah,
Bristol out.
it was. We were there. We have footage of that. It was absolutely one of the strangest, craziest accounts. And I'll just quickly go over it.
Yeah.
Jessica talked about that, and she's had a lot of our team members on her show, the Cryptid Huntress. Is we were set up, in this area. We had three teams, three two-man teams set up in this field, in this meadow, and equipped with night vision and thermal. And then there's a ridge just to the north of this site, and we were going to have a three-person team, run across the top of this ridge. And if there was anything below them, they would force whatever it was down into the meadow so they could be filmed and captured on thermal and night vision. And you also had high ground. You could see what's going on down below us. So I was on the three-man team that was up on top of the ridge. So we're moving across the top of the ridge. We get to the extreme west end of the meadow, and we've been seeing deer and stuff on our thermals, down there below. And we saw these two heat signatures that were about, like I said, about 2 meters tall, about 1 meter wide, about man-sized. That did not correspond with any of our team members. And the weird thing is we have the clear footage of these things being tall, then shrinking to half their size, being tall, shrinking, turning into one, and then turning into two, and then disappearing. And so it's like, well, that's special. That's not something you see every day.
Nope.
And so about the time that happened is we got a call from one of our teams in the extreme west end of the meadow, that said, hey, we've got something going on down here. You need to come and check this out. So we started moving down to where they were. And what they were seeing on their thermal was a box or a cube. Now, on thermal, not visible with the naked eye, on thermal. And it showed up in one part of the field, and then it winked out, and then it showed up in another part. And they vectored us over there, and they said, hey, this thing, we just started recording about the time it started to dissipate. Anybody that's worked with thermals out in the field is you don't run record all the time because it just eats up your battery. You turn it on when you think you have something. And so they turned it on about the time this thing was starting to dissipate. So they vectored a team over to where this thing was, where the remnant of it was. And when the team went into this area where this cube or this box was, they disappeared off our thermal. This was in February. There was no vegetation.
No leaves.
And we've tried to recreate this. And in our recreation, you can actually see all the way up the ridge. I mean, you can see 100 meters. So there was nothing to block their heat signature. But sure as shooting, their heat signature was completely gone. It was so stark that one of our FLIR operators said, did they just disappear? And while they're filming our team disappearing into this portal, they turned their FLIR over to the side, and lo and behold, what's watching us from a small groups of trees? Two heat signatures that don't correspond with our team members watching us.
How far away were they?
Probably about 40 meters.
Oh.
So we did a really quick after action review once we got back to base camp because it was still fresh on everybody's mind. What did you experience? And the guys that went into this, they said when they went into it, it's like they just walked into this area, and the temperature dropped, which is interesting because the cube was cooler than its surroundings, which was like the figure we captured was cooler than its surroundings. So the temperature was down. They said they walked in there and it was very, very dark. Like you were surrounded like the black velvet curtains. Just very dark. And you couldn't see the sky. It was really dark. And they didn't run into anything that impeded their access. They didn't run into any briars or branches or anything. They just walked into it. Stayed there for a few moments, and they started backing out. When they backed out, there were branches and briars and things that weren't there when they went in.
So it moved?
No, it's like the environment has shifted just a little bit. The environment was different when they went in, but it returned back to normal when they came out. So it's like when they walked in there, it's like all this stuff didn't exist, but it went back to normal by the time they came out, and they started having to kind of fight their way back out of it.
Are those the guys that got sick afterwards?
We had, one guy died,
Mm-hmm.
and another guy's has some very serious health issues that have come back up. Very, very serious health issues.
I think Jackson told me that story. Sounded really familiar.
Yeah, it's and that's something that I would be negligent, if I didn't tell people. There is a bit of physical danger to this, and it's just, not just me talking. There's been Dr. Gary Nolan, I believe that's his name, has done some research on the changes in people's brains when they come in contact with high strengthness, specifically UAPs. There are lesions on their brains that mimic MS. There are people that have had burns. The Defense Intelligence Agency has done, some research on this. So there is some physical danger to that. We've had one member of our team that had to be medevac. Lynn actually had to take him, put him in a vehicle, and drive him to the hospital because he started having AFib in the middle of the night.
I can't imagine the radiation inside of a portal or the difference in it.
Well, it's different. What we're using is, now that we're using Geiger counters, we're picking up little tiny spikes of radiation. Nothing, empirically dangerous in and of itself. But we've had some weird stuff happen. We were back at base camp. Let me back up. We had an individual back at base camp watching the fort, running our radio net. And we were back out at the meadow. And while he was at base camp, where we were that particular time, about 30 yards away from where we were camped, there was a gravel road, a chert road. And that very distinctive sound that a vehicle makes as it drives down a chert road. Well, he heard something that sounded like that kind of crunching movement sound past the base camp, but he saw no lights. This was in the middle of the night. His Geiger counter spiked from a background radiation of 0.06 microsieverts per hour to 0.66 microsieverts per hour. The radiation spiked. Whatever it was that passed by that base camp moved without light. We tried to do an experiment, and I actually used my Gen 3 night vision there to see if you could drive down this road with night vision on. And what we found out is if you go in a normal vehicle, all your very, very dim instrument clusters will reflect off of your windshield and blind you. You can't see
like a beacon.
You can't see through the windshield to drive. So why would, even if there was somebody driving around in the middle of the forest at night using Gen 3 night vision, why would they be there, and why would it cause a radiation spike? So, that's,
Crazy.
And I had a incident of extreme disorientation very close to where this box was, this cube was. This was, about a year or two later. And when I became extremely disoriented, we had a radiation spike of 0.33 microsieverts per hour. So, this radiation spike coincided with my disorientation. And if I hadn't had a team member with me with radio contact to base camp, I could have been one of David Paulides' missing 401 chapters.
I was about to say, you sound like you're getting taken.
Yeah. So it's a weird area. It's a weird area for sure.
Ristel said that they actually see the portal as it walked in, or just a change of environment that made them
Just
back
a,
out.
just a change of environment. It was only visible on thermal. Now, when they went into it, they detected a drop in temperature. But as far as actually seeing it with the naked eye, no, it was only on thermal.
Man, yeah, that's what's the other thing that no, I can't believe I thought of that. There's a clip about if Andy's toys talk to him. If the toys talk to you in the Toy Story universe, you get cancer immediately and die in 6 months. And there's a clip that Andy saw Sid playing with the toys. Secretly, his whole life has been angry that the toys won't talk to him because he was good to them.
Right.
And he threatens the toys to talk to him because he started killing Rex and the dog. And Woody said, "We were protecting you, Andy. Now you have cancer." And it shows his funeral in the next thing. I'm like, oh my god. when when he talk about the portals like that, that's what it reminded me of. It's kind of a morbid clip.
Yeah, it is. And uh, I don't know. You just have to be really careful. Really pay attention to your health on this.
Yeah,
The radiation we're detecting, like I said, is not dangerous levels.
yeah.
You know,
It's not a ton, but
but
it's a little bit noticeable.
what else is going on? What else? How else is your body being changed? There's all kinds of phenomenology that will can change you. There's something called the Frey effect, Frey, and that happens at
Mm-hmm.
about 1.3 gigahertz. Is you start having audible hallucinations when you're hit with
Mm-hmm.
microwave radiation. And there's something called the Havana effect, where our
Yeah,
diplomats
yeah.
and intelligence agents have been hit by some sort of something that causes changes in their brain. And there's some speculation that it's similar to the Frey effect, that it's microwave radiation in the 1.3 to 1.9 gigahertz range. They're directed weapons. So
That's like a secret weapon, isn't it? I mean, somebody's hiding it in a hotel room.
there's I don't want to cross into something I can't really talk about, but
Yeah, it's
it's
okay. It's okay.
there are scientific experiments and there's scientific
Yeah,
facts that directed microwave energy can cause physiological changes. I'll just leave it at that.
yeah. My mom and my grandmother went down to Cuba right after they cleared it to Havana effect. They're all, don't get down there and get sick and freak
Yeah,
out from it or something.
if you start having a headache and pee on yourself, probably time to come home
Yeah, it's like
or order
either
another
that or
drink. Order
yeah,
another
either
drink.
that or a place infested with Bigfoot and infrasound.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. You talk about infrasound. People talk about being zapped.
Mm-hmm.
That infrasound. There are certain frequencies that I can turn on my cell phone, and depending on your age, it is absolutely unbearable. Younger people, uh, certain frequencies really bother them. Where people my age, we've lost hearing and we can't
Yep.
detect that frequency. So that doesn't mean it doesn't exist just because we can't detect it. And
There's no
that's
telling how
something.
high it can go either.
Right. And that's a really interesting illustrative point. Is just because we can't detect something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I can turn on, like I said, a frequency on my cell phone. It would bother you. I can't hear it. And it would drive you absolutely batshit crazy because it's so annoying. But to me, it doesn't exist. And that doesn't mean I'm crazy or you're crazy. That just means we have different perceptions of the same phenomenon.
I don't know. I try those on my kids all the time and I can't hear them. Like, turn
Yeah,
it off. Turn
I
it
used
off.
to I used to do that to my kids. Is I would just they said, "Oh, what's that horrible noise? What are you talking about?"
We
I go, "Mom, make them turn it off." She goes, "I don't hear anything."
makes the inside of your eardrums itch. Like,
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know how good my hearing is. I guess it's okay. I thought I was going deaf when I was little, but I don't know. I think I've just had a bunch of wax.
yeah.
I had to get it flushed out.
No, my hearing's awful.
Yeah.
I'm on my second set of hearing aids from the VA. So
Hey, you're also a vet too. That doesn't bode well for the
yeah,
hearing aid.
no.
Well, do we have any other questions from the audience? We got a good bit here tonight. Yergz, what is the? I guess we're going to wrap up here in a second. What is the protocol to wrap up, or to just end and say best of luck? He's back there. He's asleep. Cut to the board. Oh, let's see if we have any more. But yeah, man, that was a good show. Besides the Bigfoot, what's your favorite phenomenon?
Yeah, man, that was a good show. The portals are great. I mean, it's just, but they're so fleeting. They're so hard to really capture. Orbs are fun. Orbs are fun. I mean, they're just really neat. When you see them, it's really cool. And we're starting to have some strange phenomenon now where it's almost like you've heard of dream speak, where, people that, or do Sasquatch, they'll have stuff implanted in them is, we're starting to have people get visions and stuff, while they're asleep in this area, which is really weird. So, people, wake up and say, had a dream, does this mean anything? And you're like, holy crap, are you sure you knew nothing about? No, I didn't know anything about this. So it's the phenomena is evolving. When it used to be one thing, now it's evolving to people being physically touched. People being communicated with during their dreams. And so, I don't know if that's a artifact of us becoming more mature, with the location and the site, that the phenomena is changing and communicating with us in a different way. We're doing some Estes protocol, which is a something out of the ghost world. We've had some amazing results with that. So we just keep keep throwing the spaghetti to see what sticks on the wall. But
I like the Estes thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we've had just some uncanny.
You can't argue with it either.
No,
it's blind. It's a blind test.
Yeah.
People say words like dream, Abraham Lincoln, random things, and you find out the other person in the other room is talking about who was the president when you were live.
Yep. Yeah. We had a independent film crew come out with. As a matter of fact, you might be familiar with the independent film, The Legend of the Downey Booger.
I think I've heard of it.
Greg Ogles and his team, they came out.
And, I heard the name Greg Ogles.
Yeah, we had a SD session that freaked some people out so bad they refused to return to the site. They're like, yeah, no, we're never going back there. Never.
Yeah, I don't know how. I have never experienced anything like that, so I don't know how I'd feel.
Yeah,
but I can imagine. I don't blame them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, Trey, it's been a good show. You've been really informative and cooperative in your hostage situation you've been in, and you get to see your kids again. Congratulations.
Yeah, well, they're both grown and don't live with me, so if they're in the house waiting for me, that would be kind of a cool trick.
This is weird. Dad, we need to talk to you.
Yeah,
I've just been distracting you this whole time to set up an intervention.
They're like, Dad, do you have some bail money?
Dad, Bigfoot's not real, Dad.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yergz is back. I look forward to checking out your podcast tomorrow. All right, Ross. What do we do?
Well, thank you, Bristol, and thank you, Trey. That was my one channel that we were also broadcasting to, the Talk TV 24. That's the one that's the sister channel to Yergz. So I'm the one that screwed up your name by multitasking here at the station. I had something else going on.
That's no problem, Russell. That's no problem.
I kind of thought it was.
Yeah, exactly. Well played.
Look here, Rudy.
Yeah, nicely done. Yeah, well, that's all right. Last night I was Howard Stern.
You sound just like him, by the way.
And I switched to Howard Byrne.
But
Trey,
no, very cool. If you had a chance to listen to Glenn's show last night, it was crazy. We all had Halloween costumes on. I was a lobster.
His antennas kept getting in his way too.
It did.
That was a country song. That was a country song that was famous a few years ago, wasn't it?
Yep.
I had a girl, a lobster, and then a flounder.
Yeah, it was.
Flounder.
Not flounder.
A lobster and then a flounder. Okay, yeah. No. I'll be here all week, folks.
Yep.
The jokes have been on point tonight. Oh man. Yeah, but I'll go ahead and wrap it up traditionally if that's how you want to do it.
That's fine. And we'll cut it from the radio and it'll go back to the automated system and play whatever is on the schedule for this time of day. But looking forward to keeping you, Bobby, and Trey having you back.
Yeah, Trey, it was good. I really appreciate you coming on, taking your time. I know you're busy. I can tell by the swords in your background that you're a man of distinguishment.
I don't know about that.
I have many fine katanas. All right. We'll go ahead and wrap up. Thanks, everybody, for watching. People on Yergz, BobbyDizzle.com. People on BobbyDizzle.com. Yergz.com. Meet in the middle. Shake hands, you know. And Trey, thanks again. And we're going to go to a countdown. Thanks for watching, peeps.